over the past 3 years, it has been, if I had to name just one thing that has made the single biggest difference in my life, this would be it, joining a mastermind group.
Hi, I'm David Hirsch, host of the Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast, now with more than 300 weekly episodes. Every Friday since 2018, we've been shining a bright light on the positive and uplifting aspects of raising children with disabilities and inspiring dads, stepdads, granddads, and father figures to be more present physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Welcome to the new Special Fathers Network Mastermind Group Monday podcast. I'll be interviewing Mastermind Group dads who will reflect on the positive impact the Mastermind Group experience has had on them and the well-being of their families. As a reminder, the SFN Mastermind Group experience is the most comprehensive program the 21st Century Dads Foundation offers. Dads raising children with special needs meet virtually on a weekly basis and form meaningful relationships while sharing weekly wins, discussing books, and sharing heartfelt challenges. One of the highlights of the year is attending an in-person weekend retreat. We're launching 10 new SFN Mastermind Groups in 2024 with 10 dads per group. That means we're only looking for 10 like-minded dads in each community. If you're a dad raising a child with special needs, we hope you'll join a local SFN Mastermind Group and make the investment to become the best version of yourself. For more information, please see the show notes or simply go to 21stcenturydads.org. Happy listening. I'm thrilled to be talking today with my friend Matt Rehbein of Nashville, Tennessee, an executive director for institutional research and analytics at Lipscomb University and father of 2 children, including one with disability. Matt, thank you for taking the time to do a Mastermind Group Monday interview for the Special Fathers Network. You and your wife, Waleska, have been married for 18 years and the proud parents of 2 children, Sabina, 9, and Benja, 12, who has autism, ADHD, and epilepsy. Let's start with some background. You've been involved with the Special Fathers Network for more than 3 years. For the past 2 years, you've been involved with the Tuesday night SFN Mastermind Group and have attended 2 in-person SFN Mastermind Group weekend retreats, one in St. Louis and the last one in Chicago. Would you please provide our listening audience with a brief overview of the Rehbein family?
Yeah, so David, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. So, moved around somewhat as a kid because of my dad's work, but I like to say that I'm from West Virginia, specifically Beckley, West Virginia is where I grew up. Waleska and I have been married, as you mentioned, for 18 years. We actually met in Brazil. In my former line of work, I worked in cross-cultural ministry. I lived in Brazil from 2002 to 2011. So Waleska and I met and married in Porto Alegre, Brazil, which is Brazil's southernmost capital city. We have 2 children, Benjamin, who's 12 years old, and Sabina, who is 9 years old. Benja, we've just always called him Benja. I mean, birth name is Benjamin, but we've just, Benja just stuck from the very beginning. It's just, that's just very characteristic of who he is. So we currently live in Nashville, Tennessee. I actually work at Lipscomb University, my alma mater, I should say. My occupation is institutional research and analytics. You can think of that as the business intelligence function of higher education. So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and biblical studies from Lipscomb. I have a master's degree in biblical studies. And as I mentioned before, I lived in Brazil for almost 9 years, did cross-cultural ministry there, worked with a faith-based addiction recovery ministry that even here almost 20 years later, we still have a lot of friends and a lot of really awesome stories of success and endurance with those men. And, we continue to support some Brazilian missionary families in that effort. So then I took a very unusual path to my current career, which is data analytics. I went back to school and got a second master's degree in industrial organizational psychology. So I've been in this job here at Lipscomb for 13 years now.
So I'm sort of curious to know, what attracted you to get involved with the Special Fathers Network early on?
Well, that's a really good question, David. So you remember what it was like going through COVID and, a time of isolation. And I think we all felt that to some degree. I felt it very acutely, as Benja's diagnoses and situation progressed, it just seemed like the deck was really stacked against us. He got a diagnosis of epilepsy on top of the autism and ADHD that we had dealt with since he was young. We had some issues with schooling where we had to put him in an alternative public school for about a year and a half because of some behavioral issues. And looking back, it's kind of felt like we were banished at that time. It was a very hard situation. So all these things, and personally, I just didn't really feel like I had anybody I could really talk to about what I was going through. I just felt, ashamed of just my lack of ability to be, from my point of view, to be a good dad, to be a good provider. And I just kind of kept withdrawing more and more. Kind of the lowest point, I'll say, was about 3 years ago this summer. Had I'll call it a transformative experience. I almost drowned trying to save Benja from drowning in the ocean there in Florida, where we like to vacation. And coming out of that, I think I just came face to face with my own mortality, and it made me realize just how much fear and anxiety were driving my life. I just can't keep living like this. So it took some time, but quite a few changes and decisions came out of that in terms of my career, focus on my personal well-being, but especially to really begin looking for a community. I just realized I need to be in community with other dads, with other men who are going through something like I'm going through. And hearing about the Special Fathers Network, and just all of a sudden, it's like the door flew open. It's like, this is a group that I need to be a part of. And so you and I we talked several times, and it just really clicked. It seemed like, okay, that this might be a place where I can finally find my people.
Yeah, well, we're thrilled to have you. So what was your understanding of the mastermind group before you joined?
I remember when you and I were talking about it, what really appealed to me was the idea that there was going to be active participation. I just didn't want to go into a group and just sit and listen and just absorb content or, be taught, this or that. I like the idea of how it was sold of, everybody takes turns leading the group. You start the group by talking about your wins. You end the meeting by talking about what you're looking forward to. We're reading books together where we go through this dad in the middle concept that I know we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I just love the idea of everybody pitching in and learning from each other. So that really appealed to me. I recognized that I needed help. I needed mentoring. I needed encouragement. But I also wanted to encourage others. With all my struggles and ups and downs, I have a story of overcoming to share. I have a story of overcoming the odds to share. And, there are things that I can contribute to. So that kind of, dynamic participation of just being able to share and mutually encourage each other. That's, coming into the group, that's what I was most excited about.
Can you remember attending the first handful of meetings? What was that like?
It was very interesting. Again, this was just coming out of COVID, when for a couple of years, so many things were virtual. And at first I was like, I don't know if I like the whole virtual thing. I'm not sure if I'm really going to do well with this, but something about the personalities and energy of our group there, it just kind of clicked. There were about half a dozen of us who ended up becoming the core group of Mastermind 2. And there's just a really good vibe there. There were times when I was like, okay, I'm not really sure, how much, I'm comfortable sharing, or as we got into things and we just kind of got established a routine, it's like, what, I can trust these guys. Well, one thing I'll say is, this might sound a little strange to some folks, but it's always important to know that somebody else has it worse than you, if that makes sense. Sometimes when we're in our suffering or in our difficulties, we think that, the world revolves around us and that, nobody else has a tougher road to hoe than we do. And talking in the group with some of the guys, it's like, man, how did you deal with that? Your kid had 100 seizures a day. I can barely manage one. Just some of the other stories, like, wow, you know what? If they can do it, I can too. And I think the other thing I'll say too, David, is that it was just good to let my guard down and just see others let their guard down at the same time too. And once you start doing that, it's like a domino effect. People just, start opening up and sharing, and then it just kind of organically builds community from there.
Yeah, well, you didn't use the word authenticity, but that's what comes to mind.
Yes.
Right. You can just be your real self, right? Take the mask off. And, it's like liberating, right? When you can just, talk from the heart and not feel like you're being judged. So thank you for mentioning that. As part of the Special Fathers Network Mastermind Group experience, we read 6 books a year and then do a Zoom call with the author. Which has been your favorite book or author for that matter?
I'll say so far, the favorite book that I read was One More Step by Bonner Paddock. I enjoy, sports autobiographies. I mean, in a way this kind of was, but just thinking about how he described that experience of being the first person with cerebral palsy to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and then run the Ironman in Hawaii. I mean, it just, the agonizing descriptions that he went through. But the bigger picture was he was doing all this because of a kid with cerebral palsy who passed away very unexpectedly. It just touched his heart so deeply. It was really inspiring to see how one relationship just completely changed the trajectory of his life and how he has gone on to change so many other lives because of that. So I think the kind of tying those two stories together, sports and endurance and overcoming obstacles, they're just very underlying narratives of life. And when you tie those things together that way, and he was just a very compelling person. I guess he's probably my age, probably even younger, but it was just really inspiring to read that story, be impacted. And also, I really enjoy that about the group, is being able to actually interview the authors and have these author calls and really feel like, we're getting a personal experience with them. I mean, we got to talk with Temple Grandin after reading her book. I mean, how many people get to do that? That was an amazing experience. But Bonner Paddock and his book definitely rank up at the top for me.
Thanks for sharing. It was a very moving experience. So at the heart of the Mastermind Group experience are what we call Dad in the Middle, where 2 dads per meeting share a challenge they're wrestling with. What have those Dad in the Middle segments meant to you, and why are they important?
Oh, man, that's, I love that, Dave. I mean, I feel like this is the heart of the mastermind, is where we really, like I said before, we're being authentic. One thing I've really appreciated is, in our group, we have a good mix of kind of younger dads and more experienced dads. I've really enjoyed, I'll talk just in a minute about, for me personally, but I've enjoyed hearing the older dads and more experienced dads share their struggles and just be open about that and realize, wow, these are role models for me. These guys are 15, 20 years down the road for me in terms of raising their kids. And here they are still saying, hey, I don't have it all figured out by any means. I need help with this too. I need a place where I can share this and bring it to you guys and just say, hey, I screwed this up, or hey, I'm really angry at this person or this group, and I need to work through that. And that's just been so life-giving to me, to just be able to, we're not there to solve each other's problems or fix a situation, but just to have a safe place to share that and a place to come away and just have some nuggets of encouragement and some ideas. And for me personally, I remember one particular instance where I was dad in the middle. We just come off a really crappy IEP meeting. I just kind of said, hey, have you ever just wanted to just kind of lay out somebody and just, I was able to just put that out there and not feel like I was going to be judged for it, but just kind of talk through and say, hey, this, and this. And then I was able to the next day to come back and give some constructive criticism and feedback. And that was a big turning point for us this past year with the school. We were able to make some really significant improvements and changes. I'll credit the mastermind group for helping me in that situation. And, I'd say about a dozen other situations. It's just funny. It seems like every other week I'm one of the dads in the middle, but, because, scheduling and things, but, I embrace that. And it's good to see people embracing it.
Each fall, the 21st Century Dads Foundation hosts its annual SFN Mastermind Group Weekend Retreat. What have been your favorite Mastermind Group retreat experiences and why?
I loved the Chicago retreat last year. I mean, I had never really been to Chicago or spent much time there, and I just loved that the setting we were in, in the top floor of Bando's apartment building. We just had a great view of the harbor there, and just, everything around the pier, and but just the fellowship there, just the realness of the sharing, and having some really nice outings. And, Tom Dreesen coming in and talking to us at lunch was just incredible. And really just, the whole experience of just being together as guys, just getting to go, going on the riverboat tour. And it's just such a great experience, just being together and enjoying each other's company, and seeing each other in person. We're meeting virtually every week, and, that's great, but just the chance to actually be together face to face, and, laugh and joke with each other, and, pray with each other or encourage each other. I mean, it's really inspiring. It's become a highlight of my year. I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, well, it's really fun to get together. You sort of have an opinion about what somebody's like when you're on a Zoom screen, week after week, month after month. And when you meet them for the first time, right? Because there's always like first time meetings, because, just to emphasize, it's not just the group, the Tuesday night group like you're in meeting. You're getting to meet the guys in the Wednesday night group. And now it's going to be, dads in a handful of different mastermind groups getting together. So there's going to be the novelty of, meeting people and sharing these experiences. So thanks for sharing yours. So regarding the financial commitment, the SFN Mastermind Group dads invest anywhere from $50 to $200 a month, according to their financial wherewithal. What would you say to a dad who's interested in the mastermind group concept, but concerned about the financial commitment?
I can understand that. I mean, as a middle-aged younger guy trying to raise younger kids, and, you got to kind of watch your bottom line. But I'll say too that, it is worth every penny. I think it's important to have some skin in the game. I think it's important to have a stake in what's happening. And when you think about it in the grand scale of things, I mean, the amount of money you just mentioned, I mean, we'll typically, you spend that much eating out every month. I mean, if you can set aside money for something like that, or paying for your cable bill or what have you, then I think it's absolutely worth it. We're paying it forward in a way. We're contributing not just for our own sake, but for the sake of others who are coming into this. I'd like to think that we're kind of trying to start a movement here. And, if we want to grow this network, I think we need to be, not just receiving, but giving back as well. So I would say, don't let that stop you from joining the experience, because, over time, it'll just become more gratifying to you to be able to make that financial commitment.
Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would just like to encourage anybody who is thinking about joining a group but is kind of on the fence about it. I would say just try one time and let it happen. Just be willing to go in there and just feel free to be yourself. This is a place where you might be able to find the kind of community that you've been looking for a long time. Where else are you going to find a group of like-minded and like-hearted dads who, and you'll be surprised at, although everybody's story is different, you'll be surprised at how much we have in common in terms of some of the struggles we go through, and how we manage those, and also how we can encourage each other to move through those. I'll say for me, it's been over the past 3 years, it has been, if I had to name just one thing that has made the single biggest difference in my life, this would be it, joining a mastermind group. So what I would say is give it a try and let it happen. Come to one meeting and just open yourself up to the experience, and you will be glad that you did. You will open up a whole new world of opportunity for yourself.
I think I heard what you said was sometimes we need to step outside our comfort zone and just seek, information and fellowship. And I think it's something that we each struggle with. So thank you for emphasizing that. If somebody wants to contact you, what's the best way to do so?
Well, you can reach me by email at Matthew Rehbein. That's all one word. My last name is spelled Rehbein, as in Nashville, at gmail.com. You can text me at 615-767-9218, and I'm also on LinkedIn as Matt Rehbein.
I'll be sure to include that in the show notes so it'll make it as easy as possible for somebody to follow up with you. Matt, thank you for your time and many insights. As a reminder, Matt's just one of the dads who's agreed to be a SFN mentor father and who is in the SFN Mastermind Group. For more information on the Special Fathers Network and the Mastermind Group, please go to 21stCenturyDads.org. Additional links can be found in the show notes as well. Matt, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, David.